Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of My Week in Horror. This is going to be a special double episode. So it's going to be split into two parts. This is part one. This is something that I've always wanted to talk about. The horror movies of Filmoon. Filmoon is this Chinese sweatshop that just makes terrible films. But they've made a lot of them, and very quickly. They have 15 movies in total in their filmography, and I have watched all 15 of them. And I'm ready to talk to you about them. So in this episode, we're going to talk about 7 movies, and all of these movies have the word haunted in the title. Can you believe it or not? Out of their 15 movies, 7 of them have the word haunted in the title. The other 8 do not. So we'll save that for a separate episode. So in this episode for tonight, we're going to look at the following movies. The Haunted Graduation Photo. The Haunted Graduation Photo 2. Haunted Dormitory White Paper Girl. Haunted Dormitory Marionette Teacher. The Haunted Cinema. The Haunted Cinema 2. And Haunted Sisters. Very creative titles. Sure. Let's get started with the first movie, which is Haunted Graduation Photo. So this movie did my head in. When I first watched it, a good 2 and a bit years ago, during the middle of COVID lockdowns, and there was nothing else to watch, and this movie just kind of popped up out of nowhere. And this is not the first Filmoon movie I watched, but it is one of those movies that got me really stuck into it. So, let's check out the synopsis of what this film is about. A group of friends studying at a large campus in China receive a note from their dead friend Piao Piao asking them to come to their special place, which seems to be the place where she hilariously plunged to her death in a hiking accident. 3 boys and 3 girls trek off to this cabin, where a bunch of spooky stuff occurs until they realize that ghosts aren't real and something else is going on at the cabin. Now, I'm going to make the assumption that not only A, have you not watched these films, but B, you're probably never going to watch them. So I'm going to tell you what this movie is about, including how it ends. Now, I've said this a million times. Chinese horror movies are terrible because they have to end one of 3 ways. It has to be a hallucination or a dream. It has to be someone in a mask or you're pretending to be someone else. And I can't remember what the third one is. But it's usually just, there's no such thing as ghosts, no such thing as spirits, no such thing as any of that, right? So these movies, all 15 of them, follow the almost identical formula. Now, what's hilarious about this movie is that the cast of this movie is very recognizable from every other Filmoon movie ever made. So everyone in this movie, now there is a sequel to this film, so everyone that's in this movie has been in at least one other Filmoon movie. But a lot of them have been in multiple Filmoon movies. Must be some kind of contract thing. Now, this movie starts off with this hilarious, and I do mean hilarious, scene of 2 Westerners getting hacked up in the woods by a chainsaw-wielding maniac. And the English is just horrendous. It is clearly, a Russian person or something like that, who is dubbing themselves into English. And it's just fucking horrendous. On top of that, the dude in the mask with the chainsaw is even worse. So there are a couple of things that happen in every Filmoon movie. Usually there's someone in a mask, and it's not even a good mask, like a Jason Voorhees Michael Myers mask. It is a really shit $2 store rubber mask. And it's hilarious that they are in almost every film. There's always really cool camera angles. So at least the directors, there's probably about 3 or 4 directors for the whole of the Filmoon filmography. So the directors are at least trying to be a little bit creative. They also all use the same music. And you'll recognize a lot of the music tracks from one film to another. There's nothing really positive to say about Haunted Graduation Photo because it's just so stupid. And Piao Piao, the green face ghost, who's the one that's causing all of this, doesn't even, she's dead. She's a ghost. She doesn't exist. What's happening is one of the 6 of them is pretending to be Yeah, is pretending to be Piao Piao in order to make the... Oh, no, this one's a bit different. This one ends with the chainsaw. Someone dressed up as the chainsaw trying to scare someone else into trying to get over the death of Piao Piao. It's actually really fucking dumb how this movie turns from it's never a good horror film, but it turns into what appears to be a horror film and ends up being some kind of really crappy mystery thriller with a bad teenage cast. And there's one dude in particular, I'm pretty sure he's in this movie. He's in a lot of the Filmoon movies. He's a Korean dude, and all of his voices are dubbed over. So he's talking, and the words coming out of the mouth are completely different than what he's saying. And my mate Wilco, who I used to do some shows with on here, told me that in China, they pump these movies out so quick that they know that the actors can't remember their lines. So they usually get the actors to count, 1, 2, 3, or, in their case, yi, er, san, se. And then they dub over the voice. So they get them to kind of count the amount of syllables in a sentence. And then there's just dubbed in ADR. And all of these film movies are the same. They have no ambient sound at all. They are all dubbed over in ADR, which means that what you end up getting is a bunch of really dead scenes sometimes, where there's just no audio, no natural audio. So there might be music, and there might be dialogue, and there might be a handful of sound effects, but there'll be no other kind of audio. So these movies completely lack atmosphere. They have no visual effects, except for the second one. It's all very, very boring kind of stuff. And they're just pumped out really quick. Now, these movies were released theatrically, believe it or not, because this was kind of just the time before streaming was big in China. So there was no way these movies were going to make enough money to be streamed. But theatrically, they all made their money back, believe it or not. That's Haunted Graduation Photo. So, hold on. Why is it called Haunted Graduation Photo? Very good question. Because one of them takes a photo of the group, and when they look back at the photo, they see that there's the seventh girl, the dead one, Piao Piao, is in the photo but has no legs. It's just a mysteriously floating gown. So hence there's the Haunted Graduation Photo. Using the Great Horror or Stupid Trash rating, now all these movies are one ghost. So what I'm going to do is rate them in regards to Filmoon movies, because there are a couple of these that are actually kind of fun. But out of all, if I'm rating it as a Filmoon movie, it's probably 3 ghosts, because the girls are cute. The movie's easy to follow. It's just dumb. So it's 3 ghosts. So it's a 1 ghost film, but a 3 ghost Filmoon movie. Now let's check out the sequel, Haunted Graduation Photo 2. Now it's from the same director, has the same cast, obviously, and is a continuation of the first movie. So let's check out what the synopsis is about. Directly following up from the previous film and released only a few short months later and recycling a hilarious 30 minutes of footage in this sequel, the same group of friends experience more ghostly occurrences. This time they call the Plate Fairy for assistance and decide to go on holiday yet again, this time to a cluster of villas where they are the only ones there, to see if they can put to rest the seemingly restless soul of their friend Piao Piao. So yes, exactly as I've said in the synopsis. 3 or 4 months later, this movie was released in cinemas, and I can understand now why Chinese audiences fucking hate Chinese horror movies. When the producers do shit like this, it makes sense. Now, great, it's got the same cast, but essentially, like I said, it recycles a good 30 to 40 minutes of footage from the first movie into this one, thus making the first movie seemingly not needing to exist, because, yeah, all the good parts of the first movie are kind of recycled in the second one. So after there's the revelation about who was Piao Piao in the first movie, they decide to go on holiday again properly, right? Only this time, something happens again at the villa. Now, one of the girls has she calls him, well, she's got this really stupid name for her sugar daddy boyfriend, who also tags along in this film. But what happens is they end up going to these villas, And one by one, a couple of them slowly get kidnapped. And then, they all start panicking, thinking, oh my God, Piao Piao might actually be real. It might actually be a real ghost. Well, fuck, we know it's not. We know we're not that dumb as the audience. There's no graduation photo in this one, except at the end of the film, the cast do this actually quite funny outtake where they make a whole bunch of graduation photo ideas that you can use as the audience for your graduation photos. I don't think there would have been a single person who watched this in China who would have thought, I'm going to listen to what these schmucks are telling me to do to make a film, to make a photo. I think that if you're watching horror in China, you're probably illegally watching a copy of The Conjuring or Insidious. You're not watching this shit. So, in the end with this movie, two of the people are pretending to be Piao Piao, and they've gotten an outsider to come in. They've got actually an outsider to come in and pretend to be Piao Piao, and two of them are kind of pulling the strings. Would you believe, in the end, the way that the dude gets punished is that they put him in a purpose-built laboratory where he needs to spend the rest of his life, essentially golden handcuffed, but without the money, working on medicine to make mankind better. Now, if the Chinese government, if you say to me the Chinese government doesn't interfere with movies, I will give you this as a fucking great example of the stupidity that was added to this film to justify it. It is dumb. It is really dumb. However, it's a slightly better film than the first one. And they do the plate ghost thing. So the plate ghost is the like an Ouija board. So not quite B-Sien, this is D-Sien. So not the pen fairy, this is the plate god or the plate fairy. And that's the kind of game that they play in this one to see if Piao Piao's real or not. This one also has a really dodgy computer special effect, which was probably just an afterthought in someone's After Effects program when they put the film together. So Haunted Graduation Photo 2 is actually better than the first one. But in regards to the wider Filmoon movies, it's probably still a 3 out of 5. So using the Great Horror or Stupid Trash rating, the ghost rating, I'll give this 3 ghosts out of 5, the same as Haunted Graduation Photo 1. Essentially, you don't need to watch the first one because you can watch the part 2 and get everything that you need. But if you do want to watch both of them, knock yourself out. You're not going to enjoy them. Now, on to the next kind of franchise that they created. So yes, here we have another university franchise of films that Filmoon created. These are the Haunted Dormitory films. There's 2 of them. There's White Paper Girl and there's Marionette Teacher. Now, Marionette Teacher was the very first Filmoon movie I ever watched, and I actually kind of enjoyed it until the end, where I just sat there and thought, what the fuck did I just watch? This is like an episode of Scooby fucking Doo. It's not a horror film. But anyway, Marionette Teacher will be the second movie we talk about. Let's have a look at the first movie in the series, which is White Paper Girl. The beginnings of a franchise that lasted only 2 films, we are introduced to 5 stunningly beautiful university students and 2 idiotic guys who were haunted by the ghost of their friend who killed herself due to being rejected. Along with the ghost is also a series of white paper cutouts that are used to scare the girls as well, until they discover the reason for all these ghostly occurrences. So first up, has to be mentioned that the girls are gorgeous. They're 5 very beautiful girls that they've picked for this film. Some of them have been recycled from the previous film, and you will recognize them straight away. Including the guy as well. He's also been recycled from the previous film into this one. This one's set, and this is something actually you'll notice with the last movie that we'll talk about, and then a lot of the movies in the next one. That there is a particular house that all these movies are shot in, but this one's not. This one's filmed in another university. I believe probably the same university as the first 2 movies were shot in. This one's a bit weird because they even make this kind of reference in the film that the 7 of them are the only ones left on campus while everyone else is on summer break. Now, what are the chances of that actually happening? Really weird, right? I don't remember too much about this film other than a lot of masks, a lot of they like to use dolls, and really bad looking dolls. The problem is they show these flashbacks of these dolls that are clearly paper mache dolls, but during the movie you're supposed to believe it's a real person. Nice. And it follows the red dress ghost thing. It follows the whole, one of them's, or there's an outsider who's dressing up as the dead friend, whose name's Susu, I believe, that's haunting them all for making them all feel guilty. In this case, it's because the girl was rejected by someone that, they're being made to feel guilty. But why all the rest of them have to suffer, I kind of got no idea, right? This one's kind of not that great. Strangely, would you believe it's not that great? Who would have thought? Filmoon movie, not that great. But it is a bit of fun, like they all are. Has a great poster, has a great, good-looking cast. It's just stupid. Would I recommend it? No. If you only wanted to watch one Haunted Dormitory movie, I wouldn't recommend this one. I'd definitely recommend the next one. So using the Great Horror or Stupid Trash rating for this film, this gets 2 Filmoon ghosts out of 5 because it's really not that great. But let's have a look at Marionette Teacher. Now, Marionette Teacher, again, because it's a Haunted Dormitory film, has the same cast as the first movie. Strangely, though, it's like an episode of The Simpsons. No one remembers what happened in the previous movie in this one. It is like they've created 7 original characters and just thought, we're going to make a whole bunch of movies based on these 7 characters. But they're not actually going to be related to anything, which is really weird because they're using the same names. Now, when I first saw Haunted Dormitory White Paper Girl, I didn't realize that it was actually part of a series of films. So I'm watching White Paper Girl and I'm like, that's the same actress. That's the same actress. That's the same actress. She's using the same name. And then it clicked on me, Haunted Dormitory. Yep, they're trying to make a franchise, right? Hold on, I haven't told you what the movie's about. Let's check out what the movie's about. This one could be my favorite. After a fire on the campus that took the life of an art teacher who was having her nude portrait painted by a student, her ghost returns to the campus and kidnaps Xiao Cha, holding her hostage until the other 4 girls and the 2 stupid guys figure out how to rescue her. And reading the synopsis, I remember now why I love it. Xiao Cha, those 2 words. Now, I made a video about this movie a couple of years ago when I first started looking at Chinese horror movies. And I made a super cut of all the times that everyone says Xiao Cha in the film. And I counted. There was 117 instances of the word Xiao Cha being mentioned in the film. The super cut I made, I think, contains 80 of those 117. And you know what? If I can find it, I'm going to pop it up right now.
小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，
小茶，
小茶，
小茶，小茶，
小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，
小茶，小茶，你在哪里啊？
小茶，
小茶怎么就突然失踪了？他们都说小茶最近没有任何异常，早一点找到小茶。小茶
小茶来这里干什么呀？
引诱小茶到这里。
小茶怎么能进去啊？小茶来这里干什么呀？小茶到现在都没有找到。小茶
他会没事的。
小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，你们小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶。小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶，小茶的书，小茶，小茶，你在这里吗？小茶，你把小茶怎么了？小茶就是在这里失踪的。既然小茶，我们的同学小茶
的消失，
但我们一定要找到小茶，不能让小茶。
肯定跟小茶失踪有关，继续去找小茶的下落。现在大家都在找小茶。
Now, hopefully I popped that up for you. If not, it's just going to be this weird zoom cut. Right? And as you can see, if I did show it, how annoying that is, where they just go, they're saying Xiao Cha all the time. And that became like this thing for me to walk around the house annoying everyone, saying Xiao Cha, Xiao Cha, Xiao Cha. Like, what? Why do you keep saying it? It's like looking for a lost dog It didn't answer the first time. Why the fuck is it going to answer on the 100th time? Seriously. But this movie's fun. I really like this movie. Firstly, because the art teacher's fucking hot. The one who gets killed in the fire. She's stunning. And then you see her with her burnt face and you realize the most ridiculous thing. These movies are fucking stupid. Because the makeup used for her burnt face looks so dumb. And there's an outline around the eye where they clearly haven't even gotten that part. So the story with this one is hilarious. The teacher and the student kind of make it out that she's dead, the art teacher, all right, in this fire. So as far as everyone's concerned, she's dead. Except she's not. She has this kind of short-term memory loss or long-term memory loss, and she needs constant attention. And this is where the student feels guilty because of the burnt face, because it's his fault that it happened in the first place. Who the fuck put sheer curtains next to a fucking candle? That is dumb. Do not do that. Do not put candles near sheer curtains. Causes fires, as it did in this case. And he went out for a smoke too, which makes it even worse. So she died because of his stupidity and his need for a smoke. So he kind of feels guilty about the burnt face. So he is holding her or looking after her, but no one knows she's alive. Except the caretaker of the campus, who's played by another regular in these movies, kind of has an inkling that something exists, but he's not quite sure. For some reason, the Marionette teacher kidnaps Xiao Cha because she wants her face to make a new face. It's like Face Off, but dumb. And the Face Off thing continues because the fucking rubber mask thing happens in this film. So what happens is that while looking for Xiao Cha, they actually find her in the basement of this building, which is recycled for another movie that we're going to talk about in another episode. And inside there, as well as a couple of the other girls that have also been kidnapped, they find Xiao Cha. And then they let her go. And then there's this ending that happens where the Marionette teacher's there. And he pulls off the mask. No, that doesn't happen yet. It's revealed that the Marionette teacher's real, right? Because she's still alive. So, not a ghost. But then the dude who was the student, who's now a teacher as well, so the timeline also doesn't match the film either, turns up and pulls his mask off to reveal himself, because he was dressing up as the Marionette teacher too. Now, that makes no sense. Marionette teacher's like this, he's like this. In no logical sense, not even if you live in America, does it make sense that this big guy could pass himself off as a small woman. Doesn't make sense, right? But they use it in this movie. And that's what I'm saying. It had the Scooby-Doo reveal where they take the face masks off and, it's someone else. There's a lot of masks in this. And it's that kind of where they peel this latex mask off to reveal a brand new face. If it wasn't for that ending, I'd probably have given this a 5 ghosts. But it suffers. Now, there's something I really like in this film. It's the ethereal way she floats across the screen. I'm pretty sure they've got her on a skateboard or a platform with wheels, and they wheel her across. Kind of looks a bit cool. But then she does that. It's kind of fucked. But this was the first Filmoon movie I watched, and I actually really enjoyed it. Even for the Xiao Cha bits. Using the ghost rating. Great horror, stupid trash. This gets 4 Filmoon ghosts out of 5. Because it's a pretty fun film. This is the one I would recommend from this episode. Now we're going to have a short word from me. And then we'll come back to the last 3 movies in this list. Pardon the interruption, everyone. I thought I'd just take a brief moment of your time to tell you about how the Artie Dans is on all those social media sites. So firstly, you can find me on Facebook at Artie Dans. You can find me on Instagram at the Artie Dans. You can find me on Reddit as the Artie Dans. You can also find me on the web at www.theartiedans.com. And you can also find me on Odyssey as, take a guess, the Artie Dans. Thank you, and let's get back to the video. Thanks, me. Now, this is starting to get a bit of a long episode, a bit longer than what I wanted to do, so I'm going to try and get through the next three pretty quickly. The next two movies we've got are the Haunted Cinema films, Haunted Cinema 1 and Haunted Cinema 2. Not related at all. That's a common thing with Filmoon movies, not have them related. Anyway, let's check out what the first Haunted Cinema film's about. After an actress is killed during the filming of a horror movie, the surviving cast and crew are haunted by her spirit. Deciding that they need to do something to rest her soul, a handful of them rent out a cinema at midnight for a screening of her last movie. However, they're more interested in things other than the film, which seems to annoy the spirit even more as she gets rid of them one by one. Haunted Cinema. Wow. Now, I love movies set in cinemas. I don't love this film. This starts off with this really creepy sequence of a black screen, a ghostly voice, kind of taunting the audience as to why they're there, calling them brave for turning up. I think the word that she was actually looking for is stupid. That was stupid for turning up to watch this film. And I bet the three people that went to the cinema to watch this also felt exactly the same way. I feel stupid watching this movie in the cinema. However, it's a nice little fourth wall break, and I don't mind that, the way that it starts like that. It also then moves to the shot of these two little kids who get terrified in the cinema, which is, again, kind of cool, but doesn't relate to the whole film. So in this movie, we've got a bunch of very egotistical people. The kind of people that, you watch in American horror films and you think, oh, I hope they all fucking die. Well, you kind of hope the same thing here, except it being a Chinese horror movie, no one ever goddamn dies. So they all get invited to this, they all go to this midnight screening, and there's only like 7 of them. So, not exactly a great turnout. 7 of them watching the movie would have been 7 people in the cinema watching the movie. Kind of prophetic, I think. They're more interested in doing things other than watching the movie. Like 2 of them sneak off to another cinema to make it out. Another 2 go off to settle some shit on a phone. Like, it makes no sense. No one's actually there to watch the fucking movie. No one's actually there to kind of say, paying tribute to this dead actress. They're all there to do other shit, but not watch the fucking film, which leads to my frustration in this movie. You're there to watch a goddamn movie. Why the fuck do you keep leaving the cinema all the time for? Disturbing other people who are there just for your own bullshit. Anyway, I can't quite remember how this movie ends, but I'm pretty sure it's just someone else pretending to be the actress, scaring the shit out of everyone. Which would fit the Filmoon MO quite perfectly. Visually, this movie doesn't actually look too bad. And it being set in one location suits the film. Obviously, because that's the whole star. I also think... Now, I know there's another movie later on that we'll look in the next episode called Who in the Pool that is definitely filmed in the offices of one of the Filmoon production companies. I've got a sneaking suspicion that the office that this movie's filmed in at the start is also one of Filmoon's studios. Filmoon's offices. So how's that for recycling sets really easy? And I'm also then guessing now that the location of the cinema is actually owned by one of the producers of the film. You know what? All of that kind of makes a lot of sense. Using the ghost rating, Great Horror or Stupid Trash. This gets 2 Filmoon ghosts out of 5 because it's really not that great. And in regards to haunted cinema movies, the second one is better. So let's go check that one out. Yes, thanks, Dan. Haunted Cinema 2. Not related to the first movie at all. Just using the Haunted Cinema title and just throwing a number 2 at the end of it. Now, this movie has cool posters. Popcorn box with this fingers of making out number 2 popping out of it. I kind of really like that. They went a little bit creative with the posters. And someone once said to me, Chinese horror movies have the best posters. They kind of do, because the movies are shit. So they need to get people in the cinema somehow. That's how I got sucked into watching Bloody Doll in the cinema in China, because the poster looked good. Ha! Should have known. Anyway, let's check out what this one's about. This is not a sequel, but a standalone film using the same title. At the launch of a new cinema in a shopping mall, the daughter of the owner organizes a midnight screening of the latest horror film with the backing of a secret client. One by one, each audience member is lured to their doom until they all wake up tied to a seat in the auditorium where a blood sample is taken from them to be used in some kind of ritual. Now, this movie has a lot of the Filmoon regulars. This one has Abby Yin, which is she'll be in almost every second movie in our next episode. It has Al Kai-jun, who's the guy who plays the priest in the movie that they're watching. It has the dude who is the janitor of the cinema, who's in Ghost in Barbers with Abby Yin. I love this guy. He's got a great smile. And then the guy who plays his assistant in Ghost in Barbers plays his son in this movie. Very, very, it's cool how they all kind of connect together. Right? This movie's actually kind of fun. Believe it or not, it is kind of fun, even though it's typical Filmoon goofy. So essentially, Abby Yin's character is the daughter of a building developer. And he has asked her to finish off the project management of this cinema. And before the cinema opens, they're going to have a special screening of a movie. And she's invited these particular people because they're in some kind of horror movie group. I'm pretending I'm in a phone chat group. They're in like a horror movie group. And so she invites these other people to the cinema. I was under the impression that they're all friends, but they're kind of not. Now, there's also another very interesting sub-story that goes on with this movie that involves a bunch of migrant workers who are digging up these graves, kind of treasure hunting, because they're looking for these jade bracelets. And then at the same time, there's also the movie as well. So they're there to watch this silly movie. The janitor is related to the boy who gets killed looking for the jade bracelet. And Abby Yin's character has been asked to get a whole bunch of people together under the guise of taking their blood for some kind of zodiac sign so that they could replicate the 8 diagram thing and do some kind of ritual. It sounds fucking dumb. Like, it sounds far too complex than it should be. It should just be a stupid little slasher set in a cinema. One of the greatest things about this movie is in the background are posters for real movies. Now You See Me Too is in there. And you just sit there and think, these guys shot in a real cinema showing posters of real movies that are far better than this movie. That's besides the point. It's just a side point. Anyway, about an hour left of the movie, right, when Abby Yin's got all the people in the cinema all tied to a chair, and she takes this sample from them, and then this mysterious person comes out of nowhere, and then it's revealed that, bear with me here as I try to explain this. This needs a fucking flow chart to go with it. But the guy whose sons died, the person who was with him with the jade bracelet, he's been set up for his murder. So he's been in hiding, and he uses his girlfriend, who dresses up as a ghost, to go to the cinema to scare these people out into getting some type of confession. It's, like I said, it's far more complex than it needs to be. It should have just been a simple slasher. And the reason, I remember now. The reason she's trying to get the confession is because one of the people who works there that they've gotten, that they've kidnapped for these 8, was another one of the workers who was on that site. So it's far more complex than it needs to be. Should have just been a slasher. But it's kind of fun. And then what happens is once that happens, there's another screening of another movie, like an official opening of the cinema, that I'm pretty sure is just the cast and crew of the actual movie as extras in the background, where another revelation happens. It's like a double revelation in this film. Kind of a little bit fun, to be honest. But take your brain out, put it to the side, and say, I'm not going to need my brain for this movie because it's really fucking dumb. I'll just watch it and let the movie take me on a ride. If you do that, you will enjoy this film. Using the Great Horror Stupid Trash rating, this gets 4 Filmoon ghosts out of 5 because it's fun. It looks decent. The cinema is nice that it's set in. Abby Yin's cute. I really like her. And, yeah, like the cast are assholes, but you expect that for a horror film. Just didn't need to be so complex. If it wasn't so complex, and you know what? My explanation of it is complex, but when you watch it, it kind of all makes sense. So the script writer actually didn't do too bad a job. It's just really hard to explain to you about the film. Anyway, now let's look at the last movie that they've called Haunted. Yes, thanks, Dan. I know this episode's getting really long, but this is the last movie we had to look at. This is Haunted Sisters. So let's check out what this movie's about. Now, my memory is very, very hazy on this one. A woman's daughter is killed in a house fire after an intruder breaks into the house while she's playing hide and seek with her. After being released from a mental hospital, she goes to live with her brother and his family, where the presence of their young daughter triggers memories of her dead child. You know, I kind of think that's what the movie's about. Because this one, I remember watching it and not paying too much attention because it wasn't that great. It didn't have a lot of that Filmoon charm, except for the rubber masks. The opening scene of the intruder breaking into her house and attempting to rapee her. It's not funny. None of that stuff's kind of funny, right? But I just remember him wearing this goofy mask, thinking, oh my God, who would do that, right? And there's a hilarious bit where she stabs him, and the way he walks away from the scene is just like, oh, I'm an actor in a movie. I'm not actually a real robber. I'm not going to do this properly. Put some effort into your work, please. Anyway, this one follows the mental illness route, which is, at the start of the episode, I was trying to think of the 3 ways that Chinese horror movies end. The third one was mental illness, right? So this one takes the mental illness route where she's a bit fucking nuts. She goes to live with her brother. Brother has a little daughter that she constantly keeps thinking, oh, looks like her daughter. All this other weird stuff happens with a doll. Someone else tries to break into the house, yada, yada, yada. It's a bit crap, to be honest. I wouldn't recommend this movie at all. But if you're a Filmoon perfectionist like I had to be, yeah, you're going to want to watch this movie. But trust me when I tell you, it's not worth your time. This one's the crappiest of the lot. Using the ghost rating, Great Horror Stupid Trash, I give this 1 ghost. Told you I was going to be fucking quick because I really don't remember too much about this movie and I don't really want to waste too much time on it. What I want to do is get to the next episode where we talk about a whole bunch of really wild fucking movies from Filmoon. But that's not until next episode. So I've been your host, the Artie Dans. I hope I've introduced you to 7 of the 15 wild movies of Chinese horror movie sweatshop company Filmoon, which now no longer exists, unfortunately. It's a bit sad that they no longer exist, but hey, they made their movies and they fucked off. Catch me in the next episode where we'll check out the remaining 8 films. And otherwise, if you've watched any of these movies, leave a comment below to let me know what you thought of them. Some of them are completely wacky. Now, remember, my ghost ratings are not based on how good they are, but they're based on how good they are as a Filmoon movie. They're all 1 ghost films. Don't forget that. I've been the Artie Dans. Thank you for watching My Week in Horror. I will catch you next time where we look at the other 8 films. Toodaloo. Wow, did I really say toodaloo?